information. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second Thursday in May of 2024. My name is Dave Hansen, president of the Houston Electric Vehicle Association, part of the bigger North American organization. There's always lots of exciting things going on in other cities around. And so we're always having a good time interacting with each other. So being May means that we just had our April events. Thanks for everybody who did all the arranging and the work to get those things going on. So thanks, Chris, for having the coffee out there. That was fun to see people. And of course, we had a Cybertruck out there, which is one of the new vehicles that are out on the market. And thanks to Karen and her husband for Discovery Green, where we had a Cybertruck and we had Collin's Roadster. So I really like that. We bracketed the Tesla vehicles from their first to their most current. And of course, a lot of folks are looking forward to a new Roadster and such. Thinking of vehicles that are kind of in that direction, I met up with a neighbor yesterday. He just got a BMW i4M all electric. And so I got a ride in that, and BMW did a very good job of engineering that vehicle. Yeah. And then thanks to Robert for setting up our IKEA event. So that worked out really well. I could only be there the first 10 minutes, but I know that things went on real well after I left, thanks to all of Robert's coordination. And so, yeah, it's always good to spread the word with folks. And I see Bill there in the back, and thanks, Bill, for being at Discovery Green and helping out not only with the cars, but having the dancing man out there being solar powered. That's always really neat to, entertain the kids and attract families and things like that. So, oh, I see one of the Sweet Brothers, both of the Sweet Brothers. All right. Very good. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Missed seeing you, but we had a lot going on in April. So you could have been places and I just missed you because I was running around. But, and of course we had the electric bus event also in April. So thanks to those folks that have worked on that. It's always great. As I often tell people, the best thing we can do is to have those young lungs not exposed to diesel exhausts. I mean, most of us all grew up in the age of diesel buses, and now there is a viable alternative. As I've said to people, the idea of having fixed routes and having a break in the middle really makes electric buses work well for schools because they can plan and they can charge during that break in the middle of the day. And as I say, it protects those young lungs. So we want to do that. Yeah, Kevin.
It's not called Texeter anymore. It's called Texas EV Texas or something.
Yeah, they changed their.
The big South Texas road trip, and they actually showed an electric school bus on it.
Oh, a South Texas road trip. No, I didn't see that. Ah. Okay. Corpus and onward. Great. Oh, fantastic. Oh.
And there was a lot of people. They had
a lot of people.
Did the events with the Collin. So Texas, etc., and the
Texas school bus project did a South Texas road trip where they took several EVs and a school bus, and they actually reached out to school districts ahead of time.
Nice.
And the press. So they actually had press events at all these places, and they had big turnouts. Lots of, administrative and city and county folks really touting school buses, electric school buses for the kids. So
great. Yeah. As I say, those young lungs, we can protect them more nowadays. Let's do that.
And the sound.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, folks, anytime you have questions for our speakers, we have a microphone there in the middle, or you can come up here to this mic. And but as I said, April's had a lot of great events. And so we hope to have more things coming up in the future. So Collin, if we can go through our startup. Okay. Almost ready to go through our startup. So yeah, just to help me remember the things we've put a PowerPoint now at the beginning because that's a good way to show some pictures, which are always good. And of course, remind me of what's going on. So letting in a few more people. Looks like we got about 10 or so online at the moment. And that's good. All right. So May 2024. Yep. Okay. Yeah. And it's great that we can have our Zoom participants. I've been talking to a number of people this week saying, yeah, come on, join in on the Zoom if you can't travel here to this location. And so that's always good. And then, of course, the recording is available on YouTube. People need to look up this month's meeting or any of the previous meetings. And so for the rest of this year, of course, we plan to have meetings all the way through November on the second Thursday, and then we'll have our social in December as usual. And we'll pick a day that's good for the majority of folks in December. So that's always good. That's always good. No. So, and hearing about projects after our two speakers, I'd love to hear about projects. So people, please volunteer. Don't be shy. Everybody likes to hear about Bill's container. In fact, yesterday I was telling somebody about your container with the solar panels on it, how you put a charger in there and you make it available for anybody who wants to come and charge their EV, get some solar electrons into your car. And of course now, I guess with the Lightning F-150 and all electric, and with the Cybertruck, not only car, which I just happened to say, but your car or your pickup. So those are getting to be more vehicles that we have choices of, because that's something I've for a long time been asked about. You know, somebody will say, well, gee, I've got a family with kids. I need to be able to have a vehicle that seats more than squeezing in 5 people because they need a child seat or something like that. And so I tell them there's now more available. So, all right, let's go to the next one. All right, so events, other speakers. So I mentioned about talking projects at the end of this meeting. It's always great to hear from the Sweet Brothers, what they're up to, what they're tearing apart and so forth and building. But actually, as one of our speakers would be great. You know, we can emphasize what you've been doing. We want to always be discussing where we want this group to be going. So times have been changing. So as Collin was saying to Jacky, we started out all being folks converting gasoline vehicles to electric vehicles. And now that's still part of us. But of course, a lot of folks just go and buy directly from OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, electric vehicles, because now you can do that. So some people know that back in the mid 90s, I had a converted Dodge Omni, a company that went out of business called Jet Industries, got gliders from Dodge, and it was the typical car of the time. And so they were delivered with no gasoline engines, but they still had the transmissions. And this company, Jet Industries, put electric motors on there, and they put lead acid batteries in because that was the chemistry of the time. It was interesting. I was just at the Keels and Wheels car show in Seabrook this last weekend. They had a 1916 Detroit Electric there, and it had lead acid batteries, and it looked super. They did a great job of restoring that vehicle, and had what they called parlor seating on the insides. Everybody faced each other because it only got up to like about 30 miles an hour or something like that. And that was the thing to do. You're like in the carriage days, which were only a couple of decades before that, everybody sat facing each other. So, yes, you actually sat in the back seat, and it was a tiller. And I think he said that you pushed it forward to go left and pulled it back toward you to go right, or something like that. I mean, yeah, one wrong turn and you'll know which way after that, how to steer it.
Basically a wagon.
Right, because yeah, a lot of those early companies started building wagons and so forth, carriages, horse-drawn carriages, and then they did that. So that was great. I talked to the 2 gentlemen. They actually brought it down in an enclosed trailer from Michigan. So dedicated. They really wanted to show it to us here in Houston. So yeah, I really appreciated them, told them that. So talking about other events, so Electric School Bus Festival back on April 6th, as you can see here from some photos, we had a lot of folks. There were actually more people than you just happen to see in these particular photos, but it was well attended. And we really appreciate the gentleman whose company let this go on in the parking lot. And that company is actively doing engineering work to support electric buses. So that was good. And then Drive Electric Earth Day, it's always a few days before April 22nd, when the 22nd doesn't happen to be on a Saturday, which of course is not most years. So it was April 20th this year. And we planned events both at IKEA and at Discovery Green. So you can see some photos from those 2 days, the 2 events on that one day. So it was great to see lots of kids there. We were next to the water. We had, a variety of vehicles there. So thanks to everybody who brought a vehicle and talked to everybody. And then that additional event called the CBRE. Yeah.
CBRE had it at the AIG building.
So AIG building had an event as well. And that's really great. So the more events, the better. Of course, we always encourage folks to join the EVA. There's no dues for this chapter if you just want to come to these events, but we encourage people to join the national organization. You can see some of the advantages of that here. And then one of the things that the big organization does is provide information sheets. So a lot of people are asking all the time. We have them here on the center table. People are asking all the time what vehicles are out there because everybody wants a vehicle that meets their needs. So they're constantly updating those as more and more vehicles hit the market, which is exciting. And we have some business cards as well. So please take those and you can hand them out to friends or do whatever you want with them, stick them under windshield wipers or that kind of things if you're out someplace. I happen to be, my wife and I were invited to Topgolf, and we got a chance to use the Volta chargers in the parking lot for free. They're just advertising supported. So places like that, if you want to put a business card under somebody's windshield wiper, if you think it's appropriate, that kind of thing. So it's always exciting to see those kinds of things going on. So, all right, I think that takes care of our PowerPoint. So, Chris, we said that you'd go first, and I think Collin's got your PowerPoints queued up. Okay. So Chris George is here with us. He's from Octopus Electric Vehicle, or is director of Octopus Electric Vehicles at, I guess it's called Octopus Energy.
Yeah, there's Octopus Energy and then Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Okay, so under the title of Octopus Energy, yeah, because you might find that title if you're looking for a new retail electric provider. And of course, we're agnostic of brands of cars or where you get your power, but spreading information, of course, is good for everybody. It doesn't obligate anybody, but it's good. So we're happy that Chris is here, can talk about EV Concierge, a new service that will help customers lease an EV and integrate smart charging and billing into their existing energy plan. So folks that have been at other meetings have known that we've talked about energy plans. And, of course, some people like getting low-cost energy at night, charging their vehicles then. Other people like having solar and using solar electrons to charge their vehicles during the day. We've talked about how the low-cost time periods, so a lot of plans have peak and off-peak. They can be off-peak can now be during the day, whereas off-peak always used to be at night. And then, as Robert knows, that the wind times, when there's particularly large amounts of wind on the grid, is also a good time to charge. And so he's working on getting that information out to people. So we'll be hearing more about that in the coming months and all. Back to Chris here. Sorry, diversion there. But so integrating smart charging and billing into an existing energy plan. So if you want to step up to this mic, Chris.
Sure. And so we've maybe that's a different bio or intro, a little different. So EV Concierge was something we launched a year ago. Now we have reformulated it. So EV Concierge was a concept whereby you reach out to me and my team. We find you any vehicle that you want. It's very challenging. We have maybe someone in the room who can talk to us about what we're offering now, which is called Drive Free. And if you want to go forward, I'm going to quickly run through Octopus because Octopus Energy is the big, parent company. We use technology. You can read it. Drive the clean energy revolution. Next. Okay, so we are a large company, fast-growing company. We have Octopus Energy as our parent company. And under that energy company is Retail Energy. Started in the UK. Now we're into, we'll show you how many countries and such. In fact, these need to be updated. We have a generation business. So we own, on and offshore wind, retail energy. We also have services like EV leasing, which we'll talk about. Heat pumps. So we actually manufacture our own heat pumps. We just did our first commercial installation last week, which is pretty exciting. And then we also do solar in a couple of different countries in Europe. And then we've also got, as the backbone of all of this, a company called Kraken. So Kraken is a software platform that enables us to deliver a really fantastic customer experience. Think of it as a CRM for utilities. Next slide. So some of these numbers need to update. But in Texas, which is where we are, we're the outpost here in America. We do two things. We do energy, so retail, and then we do electric vehicles. On the energy side, like you were saying, the initial time of use rate and offering for charging your vehicle was traditionally overnight. With Intelligent Octopus, which I think I presented on that maybe 6 months ago or something like that. Intelligent Octopus, which is our feature set that allows you to dynamically charge the vehicle so that you can adjust to those grid signals. Peaks are not always going to be at night. We're seeing that a lot. And especially with all the new renewable generation coming on, storage, like it's going to change a lot, especially with more EVs coming on the road. So we have Intelligent Octopus that does that. Also on the wind front, if you want to look, we did a wind challenge on the energy side, where it was trying to incentivize people to change their behavior based on real-time wind. And so, if it's blowing, like you're using, if it's not blowing, you're not. And so we kind of gamified it with some internal customers, had a big competition. I think we gave away like a PlayStation 3 and some other stuff, so we had really good engagement. But I would say if you want to look into that, that's what, we're doing that, and we have trouble with real-time data, as everyone does, I'm sure. So then we have Octopus Electric Vehicles. So I am co-leading that with Nathan Wyeth, which one person in this room knows. Next slide, and I can tell you more about that. We're really big on customer support. So as you'll see, I'm going to be talking about our EV leasing offering. We kind of aim to go above and beyond when it comes to serving the customer. Text, call, spreadsheets, like whatever you want, like we're going to do it. And that's true across the board for our company, which is, I think, why we've been so successful. Next slide. So to give you all a background on the electric vehicle business in particular that started in the UK, we have now helped lease 15,000 electric vehicles in the past 2 years, which is a mind-blowing stat. So we have some unique levers to pull in the UK, specifically with salary sacrifice. Terrible name in America, but it's called salary sacrifice. So basically, it's a B2B2C offering. You can lease an EV through your employer and pay for it out of your salary, pre-tax. So you're taxed like crazy in the UK and you get a crazy discount. You're getting 30 to 40% discounts on your monthly payments. So this isn't something that's going to be around forever, but it's around now, and we've certainly taken advantage of it, and customers love it. And we're seeing tremendous growth with that, as you can see by the arrow. Next slide. So this is, I think, in a sense, what Drive Free is, which I introduced at the very beginning. So Drive Free is this bundle or package that we are uniquely suited to offer because we're an energy company and we lease vehicles. The third element of this is that we're actually leasing pre-owned electric vehicles. So I think all of us in this room probably would say we have a very bullish view on the residual value of a vehicle because the battery should last longer than, or not degrade, as quickly as I think maybe the mainstream auto industry would have you believe, right? And so we think that a used electric vehicle is a great, great car. So what we do is we offer a pre-owned EV lease. It's usually could be anywhere from 1 to 3 years old. We're trying to change the mindset of the consumer to shift from thinking about odometer and mainly odometer, right? So as long as your battery is not degraded and the car is very clean and the interior is fantastic and it drives well, which EVs, they just continue to drive well. We think that that's a strong value prop to the customer to say, you could go buy a brand new car, but you could also go buy, a nearly new car and it could still drive great. In fact, we've talked to a number of Uber drivers. You've seen the data, people who have 100,000 miles on their Tesla pick you up in Uber. You would never know. You never know. Perfectly great car, right? And it'll probably go 100,000 more miles. So we're leasing used electric vehicles, and I'll show you some of the cars we have. You can customize your lease and get instantaneous pricing. So 1 to 4 years lease. We go as low as 5,000 miles, which you're not typically going to see that from most manufacturers, all the way up to 25,000 miles. As you can imagine, a year. And as you can imagine, well, maybe you don't imagine, but we've done the math on it. The more you drive, the better deal it is for you. I mean, frankly, it's, if you're a high mileage, let's say high mileage commuter, super commuter, as it's termed, that's where you're going to see the most bang for your buck. So we offer a really, competitive range of lease offerings. We also do something that is quite unique. So if you drive an EV, you know that your tires wear down because you have instantaneous torque, you've got more weight. It's fun to slam on the gas every now and then, right? Well, as a result, tires do wear down quickly. We know a lot of the tire manufacturers are building EV specific tires to account for, the way we drive and the type of driving that an EV does. But as part of your lease, we include all the maintenance and we include tires. So if you lease from us 1 year, 4 years, your tires are probably going to need to be changed at some point, and that can be an expensive proposition. And so we include that in the lease. That is fundamentally not offered anywhere else. And then this piece, unlimited free home charging. So this is like our secret sauce. I think that we don't lead with it because it really complicates. I'm going to give you the inside track, right? It complicates the sell if you're trying to sell this really big thing that, you're only making a decision on once every couple of years, maybe 7 years, maybe 10 years. So we obviously want to get you in the EV first, but if you are an Octopus Energy customer, if you lease a vehicle from us and you live in a single family home and have the ability to charge, we will give you free home charging while you lease the vehicle from us. And I go into some calculations, maybe on the next slide that I can show you how we get to that, but we'll stop there. We have a lot of cars. We have Model Y, Model 3, ID4, Bolt, the Bolt EUV, Hyundai Kona, Mustang Mach-E, you go down the list. We've got basically cars that have some level of volume that have, can give us some assurance that we'll be able to find you a car if you want a used vehicle. And as you can see, these prices are pretty dang good. One of the things also that differentiates us is our down payment. So, we call it, your upfront money. And so do-it signing is just $2,000 plus whatever your monthly payment is. If you want to do a quick comparison, which we do for customers all the time, let's say you're getting a Model 3, you're like, oh, I want to go see the comparative pricing. Well, you go to Tesla's website, you're going to end up paying around anywhere from $4,500 to $7,500 upfront, whereas we're paying this and you're still going to get a higher monthly lease. Even though it's a new car, you're still paying a considerable amount down. And obviously during a lease, all maintenance, not obviously, but Tesla does not, in fact, most manufacturers and dealers are not going to offer all the maintenance and tires during a lease. So yeah, so next slide. So talked about free home charging. This is, we do it through Intelligent Octopus, and then the way it's calculated, it's very straightforward, right? How many miles do you drive a year for your lease? You multiply that by what your kilowatt hour price is, divide it by 12, and that's what we reimburse you at on your energy bill every month. So you're getting a credit for the mileage that you are alleging to drive during the term of the lease. So you can charge as much as you want within that bound. Next slide. Customers love it. So we've delivered cars and had just fantastic, responses. Got some really funny videos. This guy, actually, Paul, I don't know if y'all remember, a year and a half ago, little under year and a half, it was impossible to get an EV. And when I launched EV Concierge, which actually Nathan, our co-lead, he had launched a separate business at the same time in the Bay Area. We were both doing the same thing, and we could not get cars for people. And so this guy right here in the middle, Paul and his wife, they were my first customer a year and a half ago, and they just started leasing from us like a month ago, which is incredible. So he stuck with me for a really long time. I have no idea why. He's a great guy. We should have him out here. He would love it. But we have great stories all around. So, Brittany's actually an Octopus employee. We offer an EV stipend at Octopus Electric Vehicle, at Octopus Energy and EV. And so she's taking advantage of that. It's her first car ever. She was all about bikes and still is all about bikes, but she bought a house and needed something to, get groceries and do things like that with. And she's loving it. And then Raya is a person from Austin, and that took a lot of convincing, but it was well worth it. He's loved it ever since. Next. Okay, so a couple of other things, I think what's unique about being in the EV community is you understand, like, people need to test drive these vehicles who have not driven, right? So if you've driven an EV, like, but if you I've seen that, like that IYKYK. I don't know. I think I saw it on a billboard somewhere. It might be a meme, or who knows. But we don't carry inventory. It's one of the unique things. So we lease vehicles. We don't carry inventory for the most part. And so how do you help a customer try a vehicle if they want it, right? Like, you've never driven an Ioniq 5, but you really want to see it in person, touch it, feel it. We've partnered with Turo, and they've given us $20, multiple $20 gift cards that we give to our customers to say, and I did it for a customer yesterday. It's like, she wanted a Chevy Bolt. She was concerned that it was too small, and she just moved to Texas. She's like, oh, these big trucks are going to run me over. I said, why don't you go sit in the Bolt and see how safe you feel? So I found her a Chevy Bolt, sent her the ticket. So she's going out to test drive a car. So it's our workaround of saying, we don't have inventory, but we're going to try our best to get you into a car, check it out, and see if it works. So really like that. Next slide. And we just did this, which I'm really excited about. I'd be interested to know if anybody has heard of Lease Hacker in the room. Yeah. So Lease Hacker, I had not heard of it. I've never leased a vehicle, but apparently Lease Hacker is this incredible online forum and resource for anyone who wants to lease vehicles. So we just yesterday, or today, this might even be today. Was it May 9th? Yeah. So today, no, it was yesterday, last night, we went live with a couple of things with Lease Hacker. So one is we started an online forum, wanted to have a conversation. We're literally there to answer any questions about leases and EVs that anyone has. So we're really excited about this because, you only get so much intel from the customers you talk with, which, that's the best way to get intel on what the offering is. But this just gives us a much broader exposure to people who aren't in Texas, because right now we're only leasing in Texas and Houston mostly, and Dallas. But really excited about that. And we go through everything: savings, types of vehicles. We'll answer any questions around battery degradation, public charging, you name it. We'll try to address it. Next slide. So this is one of the deals that we're offering through Lease Hacker. We've got 2 deals also that we just launched, and they're sick. I was going to put like sick Lease Hacker deal up at the top, but just figured I'd say it. So I think they're amazing. Model Y, $429 a month, $2,000 down. Like, you literally can't get that deal anywhere, especially with the way interest rates are. If you're going to lease or do a loan, you just can't find that. Next slide. This is a ridiculous price on a Model 3. Yes.
That price, Chris, it says starting at from.
Yeah.
Give us an idea of how many miles and how many years.
Sure.
The 429 a month for the Y, how many years is the lease and how many miles per year?
It's a great question. So that's going to be and I'd have to go look. So on our, if you want to follow along on the website or go like play around, you can calculate real-time pricing, it's firm pricing. So Octopus EV.US. If you go there and you'll see this actual lease hacker deal highlighted on the cars page. You can go in and, toggle between the various scenarios that you're aiming to see. I want to say that's got to be like a 3-year, 10,000 mile, maybe 5,000 mile deal, somewhere around there. But yeah, I should have just put the calculator up because that's it's fun to mess around with. But you can do that for every single one of our cars. You're not gonna, if you go to a dealer website, as you all know, like the price listed is not the price listed. Even in Tesla, who is very good and has mastered the online transaction, like I've had to tell multiple customers, no, you have to go say what is actually going to be due at signing, what are all the fees, delivery, disposition, which we don't charge anything for either of those things. But we've had really like great interest as of yesterday. We just posted this and we're getting hammered with it, which is great. Next slide. We also have a pretty wild incentive program that we just launched. Long and short is if you refer someone, you don't have to be a customer of ours. Octopus Energy, you could be customer of Reliant, of whoever. We will give you $1,000 for every person you refer, which is a lot of money. And it's not limited to one referral. Oop, nice. Maybe I should move a little.
Yeah. Nobody moved in front of the sensor.
Yeah. So this is called, it's a very silly name, but EV Champion. And, we think that EV drivers are the best advocates for electric vehicles. It just seems to be the case. And so, yeah, first 25 people, you get $1,000. Next 25, you get $750. Next 51 to 75, we're doing 500. We'll probably stop at 500 because that's just a nice incentive. I mean, we're not going to stop offering it. We won't go any lower. I just put that there for fun. But yeah, you're welcome to offer that to as many people as you want. Basically, you go to, I should have put that up here, but it's a Typeform /EV Champion, and you can go register your unique referral code, and you'll create that and give it to whomever. And the cool thing is, I mean, if you want to give them the $1,000, great. If you want to keep the $1,000, you can. If you want to split it, we don't love doing that, but I mean, we can do it. And then if you want to donate it to charity, we'll also, do that for you. And we just got our first referral right before I came here. So I was very, very excited to see that. Next. So, kind of the last slide is, I don't know why I put it walking. It's a terribly long walk. But we're expanding to Austin. So to date, we've been marketing to Houston and Dallas because it's a competitive retail market, and that pairs well with our EV offering, right, and our energy offering. So, but as you know, there's a lot of EV adoption in Austin, and so we are opening up the the marketing channels to include Austin, and we're really excited to see how this resonates with them. As a standalone lease product, and then also we want to see if there are any opportunities to partner with the likes of Austin Energy or someone else to offer a similarly bundled package. I think that's it. Thank you. Do you do questions or is it?
Yes.
I would probably lease one from you guys.
Kevin says he would have leased one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, let's do questions first for Chris before we have Jacky come on up here. And yeah, using the microphone in the room really helps the folks online.
So I got a quick question.
Sure.
So those lease prices look really attractive, especially for younger folks who are most likely going to be renting. So they don't have maybe as many options to charge at home. How do you recommend those folks approach it if they are not really having reliable level 2
Charging,
charging?
yeah.
Where they overnight park?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question because I think we, I've had a couple conversations with various customers who are in that exact scenario. And I mean, I think the best anyone can do, and what we're aiming to do, is kind of go above and beyond to, one, educate customers. Oftentimes if you're living in an apartment, you've never owned an EV, you really want one, but you're unsure about where you're going to charge it, how you're going to charge it. You need to probably like engage with the reality that it's going to be more challenging than it would be if you had a single family home. I mean, that's fine. You don't lead with that, obviously, with the customer, but you've got a kind of level set with that. And then what we've been doing is we have a lot of resources online that we're curating and developing to where we're creating hyper localized content that is geared toward answering questions like that. So I've written a couple blog posts that like they go into details like in Houston neighborhoods. So you're in the Woodlands, where are we going to charge? If you're down in Pearland or in Clear Lake, where are you going to charge? I think fundamentally though, the thing that we're aiming to do is just more broadly educate. So letting them know, hey, your car is going to come with a level 1 charger. There's a high likelihood that you're not going to need the full 240 mile range every day. If you can top off somehow, somewhere, whether it's at work or at your apartment, if there's a 110 somewhere, like you can make it work. Further, the person who moves the needle for residential charging and workplace charging is typically the property manager, not the property owner. So if you can get in contact with that person, say, hey, I'm an EV driver, like I'd love to know if we could get a level 2 charger, we can do that. And so what I didn't include here is we also have resources with contractors who will go, advocate on your behalf if you live in an apartment and you want to talk to a property manager, for example. It's a good question. Yeah.
What about having a resource for folks for them to understand that there are some properties that do offer EV charging as part of their,
Sure.
trying to attract that kind of customer?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a great idea. It's something we could probably, I've got a couple of different folks who probably could get me a list of where all the, multifamily charging outposts are, and we could, I'm sure, do a deal with them where it's, yeah.
And that list
Mutually.
is growing all the time.
It totally is.
Because
Yeah.
there's more and more ease on the regulatory front, or the city permitting incentive
Permitting is
front.
much easier, yeah.
And so as properties are being built and renovated, they're putting in EV charging infrastructure.
Totally. And
So that would be something you guys could tap into.
yeah, and I mean, before this, I was running an organization called Evolve Houston, and that was one of the things that we looked at was the EV Ready Building Code. And if you've ever worked with building code, it's like 6 years behind. So it's in maybe the 24 building code, but that means it doesn't get implemented until 28 or 29. And EV Ready Building Code is effectively, if you're building a new commercial structure, you have to have it ready for, basically the 220 in certain areas. Yeah.
My apartment actually has free EV charging too.
Heck
So
yeah.
it's been really helpful for us to kind of do that. A little fuzzy on how free EV charging works. You said if we charge, so let's say my energy bill is $100 and I need to charge every month and it costs $20. So you're saying I get to charge for free and get that credit back?
Yep.
So double.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
so that's actually a great question. So the way it works is you will still get, so we're unique also in another way. In the presentation that I gave last time I was here, it talked about Intelligent Octopus, and actually that's not true. I did not give that, so I will give it here. We have a unique ability in that we have Kraken, which is our software platform. It's also our billing platform. So we can bill the customer, which is great for energy, but because we are a leasing business now, we can also bill the customer through Kraken. So, depending on some rulings from the PUC, you're either going to get, a single bill that has both of the line items, so your energy consumption and then your EV lease and then your credit, or you would get two separate bills effectively coming from the same account. But there's some rules around what is paid first. Energy bill always paid first, always. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps, but the way it works is like we calculate that credit based on how many miles you're allotted in your lease, and then we we credit it. So it's all going back to the same account. It'll be on, on our back, and we call it. That's not important, but
It's charged at a different time, but it's effectively the same
exactly.
thing.
That answers the question I was gonna, is how do you know how much I charge, how much electricity I use charging? So you're just basing it on the miles.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the way Intelligent Octopus works is we turn on and off charging at the vehicle level. So when we see a signal, we turn it on or off. That's pretty straightforward with an API integration. We are able to do that with certain chargers that we've integrated with. But all that's handled pretty straightforward there. Yeah. And I think where I was going with that is that we technically have the ability, I think, to look at how much you're actually consuming. But that is a pretty hefty integration with our software team that we're just not there yet. Yeah. It'd be very helpful with fleet for sure.
Right, because we've had cases, first of all, we have multiple EVs at our house.
Yeah,
And second of all, we have guests that come and then they charge because
Yeah.
they've got a distance to go. And so to separate all that out is a little complex. Yeah.
And so I think in the future world, we will be able to, we certainly will have the capabilities to do that. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, EV charging integration, is that with the 3 models that you talked about, or are there other models?
Good question. It is with, I think it's actually almost all of the models that we offer. We used to not have Bolt access, which is crazy to me, but OnStar and these legacy software systems, they just didn't make available access to like a lot of newer ones, contemporary ones do. But they've recently allowed us to integrate through making making their CAN available. So yes, I think all of them we are able to do intelligent charging with.
So you say all of them, like
everyone that I mentioned, everything that's listed on our website, you should be able to.
Oh, you guys have a list of, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I was wondering about the advocating to install L2 charging.
Great.
I was pretty lucky in the last 6 months I made in my office in a place where there's pretty abundant level 2 charging free, actually, which is kind of nice, not for the whole day, but at least part of it. And so I'm starting to get a little warmed up because previously I'd had 2 other charging regimes, which is charge off of a mobile connector, which is level 1 for the first year and a half, which worked pretty good. And then a level 2 for the last 5 or 6 years at home. Now I have the option to go home or at work. So what I'm wondering is, if you're advocating for these things to be installed, do you feel like it's easier to work with employers to get them to carve out a little space for some EVs, or is it easier to work with multifamily homes to get them to provide a bank of these things, or is it kind of up in the air? It depends.
I mean, quite honestly, like I think all of them are important, but what we're capable of doing with my limited team right now, like it's something we'll help individual customers think through as they're going through their journey, but it's not something we're spending a lot of resources and time on. We just simply can't. We do have, I didn't put this up there. We use a company called Treehouse, who, if you go through our checkout process, you can elect to, during the order process, sign up for Intelligent Octopus or Octopus Energy and Intelligent Octopus. And if you don't have level 2 charging at your home, we work with Treehouse. They effectively do a unique URL link away from that, and you can get a firm quote on how much it's going to cost to install level 2 at your home. But yeah, I mean, I think the workplace charging, home charging for non-homeowners is something that like we want to happen We want to be solved very badly. I just don't know if we're the company that can do it. Like I said, we'll offer unique individual resources and support, but we'll leave it to the professionals.
I was going to comment. Our office is at AIG building, so we've actually tried to get the building to install chargers for us. Once they saw the quote, they went silent.
Yeah, of course.
So our next step was like, hey, once we get the vehicles for our company cars, we'll take them out to a ride or let them drive it for a week. Maybe they'll be more convinced then.
Yeah, and I will say, one of the things we're also working on, we've talked with a couple of companies. We're in deep talks with a couple of companies to offer a unique kind of leasing program to employees through specific employers. So we found a couple of employers who have EV programs already within their company. And so, what we're able to do is kind of uniquely craft deals that would be suitable to like a, volume leasing within a company. It's not fleet in the traditional sense that it's commercial fleet, but if we could get all the executives to get a lease, that's and that be the cost be offset by the employer. And then maybe doing some things like, incentivizing others within the organization to do it by adding workplace charging, maybe offering a slightly lower stipend to non-executives. That's something we're working on. So if anybody has a company that wants to put a program together, I've got it ready to go.
Any other questions? Folks online? Anybody online?
Anybody online have a question? No?
About 10.
Hi, this is Andy.
Hey,
Aloha. Sorry, I'm actually visiting. I am not in Houston. I am part of New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association, and we were talking with the leadership in Houston. I said, by the way, join us for the monthly meeting if you can. So glad to hear about you guys. It sounds very, very interesting.
thanks.
I'm assuming that right now, you mentioned earlier that you're in Houston. I think you also mentioned you're in the Dallas market and expanding to Austin. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I guess maybe after the meeting we can talk separately. I've got a bunch of folks that are my contacts in in all those markets, and perhaps we can do some of the referral stuff for you. I'm interested to hear a little bit about your vehicle leasing program. So you said that the vehicles you lease are not new vehicles; they're typically slightly older.
They're pre-owned. Yep.
Okay. And what about things like warranty work, that kind of stuff?
Yep. So the lease is unique in that it's a pre-owned lease, but also we offer full maintenance. So that's covered. And we actually have a deal with a mobile mechanic. So if you have something wrong with your car, they're going to come out to your house and fix it, which is great. And then we also replace tires. In fact, one of our customers had a flat tire. Brittany had a flat tire last night, and we sent someone out there and got her new tire today.
Interesting. And then is your lease structured as a traditional operating lease with a fixed buyout at the end, or is there no buyback option? Or
no, there's no buyback option right now. I think our long-term vision here is that these vehicles are going to be valuable for a while, and a second life lease really could drive adoption for people who otherwise may not be able to afford an EV, right? So you start talking about like the lease prices right now, let's say they're $330. Well, after a 3-year or 4-year lease, like maybe the lease price goes down to $200, right? That's kind of our vision, is to offer that to folks. Yeah. And those vehicles are all, again, under warranty. So we cover all that, make sure it's no hassle to you.
Are there any, typically with a lease, there's an upfront cap cost as well as mileage caps on that scenario? What's the model that you guys espouse?
Yeah, we have a very generous excess mileage fee. There's an upfront payment. I think I covered this earlier. It's $2,000 plus your first month's lease payment. And then there is no option to buy back at the end, like I said, because we want to hold on to them. At least that's our view now. It could change.
Okay, love to hear more about that, and I think if you guys ever expand into the Northeast Corridor, that would be an interesting proposition over here.
No, it's good to hear. I mean, we have you know, ambitions of being in, you know, especially a lot of the other deregulated states with kind of
Right.
like in tandem with our energy business where we hope to go one day. But there are also non-competitive markets that we would strongly consider once we get these running.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Treehouse as your installation partner, because one of the people that led the latest round of funding for Treehouse was Holman Enterprises. Holman happens to be New Jersey based, and they've got a venture arm, but they've got dealerships across the country.
Yeah, I know them very well.
Yep. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
This is great that one of the things that you address, I mean, often folks will hear me saying like at Discovery Green, we recognize that operating costs on EV are lower than traditional gasolines, but for a lot of folks, the purchase price is higher than a, you know, little Nissan Versa or something like that, because everybody, of course, is always comparing apples and oranges. They compare the cheapest gas car that's advertised, which we all know you can't go into a dealership and buy it for that price. They're always adding on things to it. But of course, that's the price they're comparing to their friend who did just buy an EV. So it's an unfair apples and oranges compare. But regardless of that, the lower operating cost but higher capital cost is directly being addressed by your lease program. So that's really good. So other folks online, questions? You can either type them in or ask them live. And Chris, if you're going to stay around to the end, I hope you are. We'll folks, you can think about them or type them into the chat and we'll address them at the end as well. So great. This is great to hear that the latest that private industry is doing. And so we appreciate your talk. All right, Jacky. All right. So we've got Jacky coming up here now. And so Jacky's background, let me call it up here again because I had it and I closed it. We appreciate you're here from Trillium Energy. And so I understand you're looking at hydrogen and other alternate fuels. And so it's great to think about all the different possibilities that folks can turn to as we roll into the future. Okay, and again, folks, if you have questions, you can ask them live, type them in the chat, whatever. So, Jacky Feng.
Do this. Yeah. My name is Jacky. I actually met Collin at the AIG building after a workout, and some people said there's EV cars at the front, and I was like, oh, cool, I'll check it out. And there was the truck, and then the Roadster. Of course, being a car nerd, and I was just asking him all about the Roadster. How did this come about? How similar is it to the lease? Things like that. So, yeah, so we got to know each other, and he mentioned you guys meet once a month, and I said, okay, cool, I'm game. I'm always happy to present, and I'm a bit of a nerd, so I love to talk about things. And I have actually Jared here with me today too. So we're one of the two engineers that help our Trillium build out EVs. So before I go into that a little bit about me. I graduated University of Houston 2016. At that time, I was in the natural gas industry. Like I interned at a big EPC company that did high pressure lines across the states, and then also at Centerpoint Energy. So all about natural gas. As some of you might remember, 2016 was terrible time for the industry and terrible time to graduate. So I moved to the automotive industry for about 6 years, learning component manufacturing and how those components go into cars like Toyota Camrys, Siennas, and things like that. So one of my crowning achievements at the time was I designed something on the Toyota Sienna, and then I was a sales engineer, so I had one business for the new the Hummer trucks and the SUVs and the Silverados. A really cool time at that time in 2017, 2018, the business was like, hey, all of our business is going to go away. All our ICE engines business is going to go away. And we're starting to see a 1% offtake there. And now we're going to see 5 to 10%. And from that point on, we should really focus on EV RFPs and bids like that. And so actually, I think I only bid on one ICE vehicle quote at that point, and then everything else was all EV there forward. So the Hummer, the Silverados, some business I won. And then in 2022, got the opportunity to come back and be at Trillium, and just kind of showing my nerdness of it all. I always loved piloting and driving things, right? Whenever I got the chance, I was like, yeah, you want to drive? You want to drive the boat? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. That I wasn't flying the plane, to be fair. It was a friend's plane. They're like, hey, we need a co-pilot. And I was like, sure, I'll sit there for 3 hours with you, and flew. He let me fly a little bit. So a little bit about me. So before I talk Trillium, I wanted to kind of let you know about Loves. Loves was founded in 1969 by Tom Love. He passed away last year, but he's built over 600 stores, C-stores nationwide. We are a top 20 privately held company, and everyone at Loves is at corporate in Oklahoma City. But Trillium was founded in 1994, so this year marks 30 years of us being in the alternative fueling space. And in 2016, we joined Loves. Today, we have about 65 public access stations, CNG stations, and operate over 220 alternative fueling stations. And we are located at the Energy Building. So our corporate culture, we generally like to be very vertically integrated with all of our services. So no matter what fuel we provide, we have the same team to manage existing accounts, staff across the country to help us maintain and operate, and then to go into new business if they're looking into that. And then distribution center to help us maintain all the nozzles, all the parts of the station if need be, so we can get parts within 24 hours overnight. And then lastly, our role, me and Jared's role, is in the design build services, where we're front end estimators when it comes to new opportunities with all our fueling types. So oftentimes we'll read the RFP, read the scope to understand what the customer needs, what they want, and then we talk to our equipment providers, talk to our contractors, and hey, how much is it going to take to build and cost and things like that. In addition, we do, both of us manage the EV pool cars that we have. So I actually brought our Lightning here today, if anybody wants to check it out. So yeah, it's been a really cool time at Trillium. So last slide about everything else before we go to EVs. So a little bit more detail. Compressed natural gas is kind of our bread and butter. About 20 years ago, when transits wanted to transition from the diesel space to a cleaner fuel source, compressed natural gas was kind of the natural move there. You can get utility gas right from your utility and compress that. And then the vehicles were relatively easy to convert from diesel to CNG, but also the maintenance was relatively simple. So it was really simple for transits to transition from a cleaner, to a dirtier source to a less dirtier source. And then the fueling profile is really similar too. And then RNG, we kind of started that more recently. Effectively, it's taking feedstock from your wastewater, your farms, landfills, and taking that mix of methane and odors, and then we clean it and we inject it back into the pipeline. So in effect, we can offer RNG fueling because we provide RNG into the utility system. Bit of a credit trading for those of you who are familiar with that. And then hydrogen has actually dominated my life in the last 2 years. So that those same fleets that want to transition from CNG to actually clean emissions, they've came out with RFPs that had hydrogen refueling or EV refueling. So hydrogen, we've had 2 stations operating and 3 in the building phase, and actually 10 plus in the bidding phase, and everyone's still trying to understand all the equipment that it takes, all the costs that it takes, whether to go liquid or electrify. I can talk your head out about it, but this is about EV. So we've been in the EV game for about 5 years, I want to say. Initially, it was just really trying to get to know what EV is, because Loves is we say we fuel any fuel that comes, right? So the common the slang is always like, if cars were fueled by peanut butter, we'll make it happen. So we did it 5 years ago to learn what the chargers were like, what the maintenance was like, what the fueling profile was like, how long people have to wait, and how does the business work. And then now we're in the we won 60 plus locations with the NEVI grant, and I'll talk about it a little bit. And yeah, that's been booming for Jared for sure. That's all he does for the last 2 years. I'm doing hydrogen, he's been doing EVs. So can't talk about our infrastructure building without the NEVI grant that came out. So this is the source of our EV network expansion. Many of you might know the infrastructure bill that came out. Part of that had $4.5 billion in funding to install chargers across the U.S. So the breakout kind of comes out. Texas has the most funding. That's probably by population, but also by need as well. And then the lowest is Hawaii, New Hampshire, things like that. So this is kind of the breakout per state. So some of the criterias with getting the grant, you have to meet certain criterias when you do grant funding, things like that. So some of the main ones are, it has to be along interstate corridors, and there's phases where they roll out the funding. So right now, I think we're in phase 2, phase 1-ish, 2-ish. Yeah, so they'll dictate certain high demand corridors that need those chargers. And another requirement is 4 ports delivering 150 kilowatts simultaneously. Most of them are CCS. Sometimes we've seen the NACS talked about, but also sometimes seen CHAdeMO talked about too. And we had to ask our charger provider to say, hey, can you install a CHAdeMO on one of the station we're putting on? And definitely 1 port with ADA access. In addition, site amenities. They want to have trash services, bathroom, Wi-Fi, showers, has to be well lit, open 24/7, food available, canopy, pull-through options for those who have pull trailers with your trucks, and security. So Love's is kind of the perfect face for that. We are open 24/7. We are mainly not in the city centers. We are across all the interstates and stuff like that. Us with Pilot, with Flying J, you'll see us there. So what have we been doing? We've been applying for EV charger stations where it's available, where site design and financial feasibility, and just making sure that we want to apply with that site, right? We see a high demand site. We see it's really close to Houston. There's going to be a lot of EV chargers around, or EV drivers around. So we want to apply for those. We've also released an RFP. We asked all the charger providers to give us their best price, but also availability, reliability, who's your aftermarket service provider, if you have it, and if they can scale, right? So I think there's certain ones that you can plug in more modules, and you can go up to 200 kilowatts in the charger. So that's what some we've been doing. An RFP for installation and aftermarket service. So as I said, we have over 60 sites that we have right now that are ready to be built. We need someone to build those. We ourselves don't have any experience, or we don't have the manpower to really install the chargers. So we need someone national to kind of help us out with that. And maybe aftermarket service. I think one of the requirements is guaranteeing 97% uptime. So that's pretty high. It depends on how you want to see what uptime is. Is it every time they plug in, is that uptime, or is it 24/7 uptime? We don't know what that is. So, and then lastly, me and Jared, we have those corporate EVs to kind of try out, to gain experience and understanding. So for me, I actually took the trip to South Padre in the short range Mach-E. So it has 220 miles on it, and I think one way is about 350 miles. That was a pain. That sucked. I think at least going there, all the level 3 chargers were at dealerships. So that was great. I could charge the dealerships, and food was, and then you had to go find food or something, or go find the food and go charge the dealership or something like that. But coming back, it was on a Sunday. Dealerships aren't open on Sundays. So that really sucked. I really had to plan for that. So I think it was fully charged in South Padre, and then 220 miles was barely enough to get to not Wharton. There's a city there that has recently opened up an Exxon. I think it was EV Go or something like that. But I still needed another 40 miles. I had to find a level 2, hung out there with me and my wife for an hour, and just to get another 40 miles so we can get to that fast charger. So I think we added like another 2 hours to our trip. But then afterwards, she was like, "Hey, the Rivian R2 looks really cute." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess she still likes it." So that was really cool. So yeah, we mostly once we started giving our employees an experience in the EV, once they'd taken it on long road trips, they've started to understand, okay, I understand why these requirements are there. Understand how much of a pain it is that in Houston, you could only go to that Walmart and there's 20 people waiting there at any time. It sucks. So, and then everyone's more gung-ho and more ready to write, better narratives about how we can provide a better experience. So let's see. Yep. So it's all moving very fast and live. Yeah, to this day, we've won, like I said, about 60 sites to install across America. 6 in Texas. As I said, this is still a phase 1 approach, so they're going to phase more of it out as it's coming out. I think Tesla's number 1. I want to say Francis Energy is number 2 in terms of sites 1 or funding 1, and then we're number 3. It's really exciting. So kind of the end of my slide. Some things will change, at least with the interface of Loves, but at least the corridor networks remain the same, and we're there to provide whatever fueling that might need, right? So we're investigating into hydrogen. What if there's Class 8 trucks that need hydrogen refueling? What are we going to do then? So we have the experience to at least know the right vendors and who to talk to, and then scale that out if needed be. So that's the end of my slide. So any questions or thoughts there? Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for being here and taking time out of your schedule to be here. The conventional wisdom is do fewer things, but do them well. How do you manage different supply chains, different market realities, and different sets of regulations? It seemed a little bit chaotic if it wasn't managed right.
It's a good question. That kind of reminds me of how our organization has been built. So one team that does estimating, for example, we only have one team that does estimating for all our alternative fueling teams. So we're not really separated by different departments. We actually sit right next to each other. The team that does our financial analysis also does it for the RNG space and also the EV space. And anytime we need to present anything, that everyone's on the same page. And actually, it brings us more knowledgeable, right? So that's how we came to RNG. We're like, hey, we've done something studies in the RNG. We said there's credits that you're able to capture. You can kind of sell that in the CNG space, and your public companies that has like ESG goals that want to meet it, they'll buy that, and they want to use your CNG services more. So I hope that answers your question, but I think the only challenge we've had so far is the hardware side, right? You can't really mix a EV charger nozzle with a CNG charger nozzle. So we did have to expand our distribution center, or at least really think about how we want to serve aftermarket service there too. But that outside of that, the intellectual side, we're all kind of mixed together and then do all the same thing. So.
Models, so they should, I think, Pontiac, Saturn,
Yeah,
Hummer, and so that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I guess with all of our company faces, do I have that picture somewhere? So top left, Loves is the main the store brand. Gemini is the trucking that kind of pulls diesel or gasoline to the Love sites. Musket is actually the commodity trading arm of Love, so they trade that commodity Trillium, we're doing all the alternative fueling stations. Is a team that maintains the Class 8 trucks, or if you need going in for lube service or anything like that. So there's not a lot of intermingling. We are all in our own little space. We do talk to each other when it need to be, but they do operate in their own little space. So I wouldn't say there's not a lot of inefficiencies there.
So I thought I heard you mention Pilot and Flying J. Are you guys affiliated with them, or how do you work with them?
They're our competitors.
Better.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I mean, everything they do, we kind of analyze and see if we want to do the same thing, right? I think I showed a picture of them. They did a pull through design with GM. We're like, oh, should we do that? Is that a good use of our space? That's some of the live conversations we're thinking about too.
I'm actually kind of curious. I'm seeing the Flying J has an awning covering things, and this has always been kind of a pet peeve of mine with the superchargers. Only one of the superchargers I've been to in the last 5 or 6 years had any kind of awning going over it. And of course, when it's raining and there's a big puddle that you're standing in, you're asking yourself, what the heck? So are you seeing any, I mean, I know it probably adds to the cost of these sites, but have you seen any kind of pushing, or I mean, the federal grants probably don't require it, but are you seeing any kind of suggestion that maybe some awning should be put in?
So some of the federal DOTs, in some cases, they might provide, I guess, bonus points or additional incentives to install canopies. So that is actually a very good question. They're concerned about it. They're not requiring it per se, but in some cases, they're giving bonus points. Now, in most cases, it's not an eligible expense. It might be ineligible, but there are incentives for it, and that's something we're looking at. And actually, our plan is to have it as typically like a standard, whether it's off to the side with the canopy or an extension of our fuel canopy.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's one of the advantages of us being privately held. I think we talk to the owner of Love's on a weekly basis, and at some point, I can't remember when, he was like, "Hey, let's just making these as standard. I don't care what the cost is. I think it's better for our customers." So yeah, we're gonna add them as our standard.
So another thing, I just noticed, probably other people have seen this already. The PlugShare app, which is so commonly used to find, random chargers in different locations, probably more used by non-Tesla drivers. I just realized you can tell it to just show you the coming soon locations. I'm wondering, are you tapping into that a little bit, getting your data out to PlugShare so they know where all these 60 locations are and about to sprout up?
That's actually a good question, and I can check with our analysts, but I don't think that's something that is immediately on our radar.
Yeah. So to be honest, I think maybe 5 sites are starting construction. So we're just starting to think about how we want to execute, how we want to do that better. So that's a great question. I think PlugShare is mostly it's community based, right?
Yeah. I mean, they've been around since, I don't know, a decade plus. And I always think of them as the Bible. If you're ever stranded, in the old days, you'd reach for a paper map to figure out where the nearest town is and how to get around. Now you've got these, iPad displays on your car and your iPhone. I can't imagine anything better than PlugShare, although I guess a better route planner probably is giving them a run for their money now as an app. But I would encourage you guys, if you can kind of get your name out there and visible, it will prime the pump and get people coming to your site even before you're finished.
Yeah.
I tell you, people love to just check these things out if they're in the neighborhood of their home. They want to find out about it early, and it might encourage them. And this could help our other speaker. If you know that a charger is going in sometime in the next 2 months where you live, what the hell? Just go ahead and get a lease. It'll be, you probably won't even run out your battery in the first 2 months if you just live off the land for a couple of weeks. And then when that new charger comes in, boom, you're set.
It's funny you say that. We've commissioned different stations, and part of the station commissioning startup requirement is for you to fuel CNG or EV or whatever. And there's been often times where, I think it was Tulare, California, where you can't rent a car out there. How do we get this EV station to be commissioned? So I think we went on Facebook and we're like, hey, you want free charging? come over here and get free charging. So that's kind of how we made it happen.
You wanna offer free charging to Octopus customers?
We could talk about that. Yeah.
Are you guys branded at all? Do the customers see the brand, or is this all under the Loves brand?
I think we're trying to do everything white branding, and it'll be Loves branding. But I think you could find it in our apps. But I think we're still working those details out in terms of execution and how we want to show our face, right? So.
For the big 18-wheel semis that are coming that are electric, are you addressing those?
Good question. I think Loves has always been, again, if there's customers coming to fuel, we'll build it. Right now, we haven't seen any demand yet on the road. So we haven't, but we're keeping a close eye, right? I think we've talked to Tesla before. We talked to I think it was Navistar that was wanting us to build a couple of stations for them and then do fast charging for them. So we're investigating as well. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Because it seems like Peterbilt and Kenworth and everybody, they're coming out with their electric models. And of course, in Europe, they've got a slightly different design. They're kind of more flat-nosed tractors of tractor trailers than in the US. You tend to see the larger ones. But yeah, I mean, part of it to me is leading. So yes, I understand you've got to conserve corporate funds and so forth, and you look at where the demand is. But I read just a month ago, so you mentioned the Tesla semis, that between Texas and California, they built 9 or are in the process of building 9 stations for the Tesla semis because they want to be able to deliver parts between the California Tesla and the Texas Tesla. And so you look at that and it's like you could jump in and, you know, like I said, Peterbilt, Kenworth or whatever, if they have a particular route, it's like we need to go from one side of Missouri to the other side of Missouri. You know, if you build a couple of stations in there and address that and you had those customers, then they're available for other customers kind of thing. So that's the way I look at it. But of course, I'm not running a corporation.
Well, I think to add to that, there's a couple of stations that are, I think it's Trillium branded and Love branded, but again, same pocket of money. We were working with Amazon actually. They needed overnight parking for Amazon, so they're like, hey, can you build in addition to CNG, can you build some level 2 chargers out there for us to park there and use it? So,
have you? So I've looked at the various dwell times, obviously associated with charging, depending on the speed, size battery, etc. Has Loves calculated probably the value of an EV customer versus a traditional internal combustion customer? Like how much time do they spend at your store versus a regular gas?
I think they also got it down to the dollar that you're going to spend at the store too.
Okay.
I want to say the dwell time was plus 10, 15 minutes, and they potentially saw, I think, $5 to $10 more per transaction or per dwell time that they saw the customers going through. So thinking about, maybe, hey, for me personally, right? My wife loves Starbucks. Hey, let's build a Starbucks at a Loves and let us, hang out there, probably more than $10. So yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Jacky, it's Andy again. I don't know, I don't recall correctly, but I believe that California, in addition to the passenger light duty electric vehicle mandate, there's also an electric vehicle mandate for medium and heavy duty vehicles. So I believe that California has already started to curtail the number of non-EV tractor cabs that are allowed to be sold in the state as of, I believe, this January 24. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, it was like 2030. They have to at least.
I think so, something like that.
Yeah.
Which means that there will definitely be, a need for medium heavy duty charging somewhere along the corridors.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we've seen our customers ask for that, right? We have JB Hunt that hauls things between states, and they're like, "Hey, they came out with a mandate. How do we feel?" And just like, "Oh, hold on, let's think about this. Let's look at Loves, look at other locations." So yeah, that was, I think that was late last year when they wanted the fleets to go through that, and I think there was a amendment to kind of delay that for a couple of years so that the infrastructure could catch up. But we're talking about that too. Yeah, we're very aware of that, Andy. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Yes, sir. You mentioned one hydrogen filling station. Can you tell us what vehicles currently are running hydrogen? Thank you.
Mostly seeing, at least in light duty applications, Toyota Mirai. I think Honda has Clarity. Yeah. And I think Hyundai has something coming out too, I want to say. But for our stations, it's been mostly transits. So New Flyer that came out with a bus that has similar, basically, I think they removed the CNG tanks and put the hydrogen tanks in there and a fuel cell in there, and they use that for their fixed routes transits. Nicola, yeah. So it's different. A little difference is that I think the transits right now are at 350 bar refueling. The Nikola trucks are at 700 bar refueling, so a lot more higher pressure. Yeah.
So thinking of California laws and so forth, and you'd mentioned earlier along interstates. Well, of course, here in Houston, we have a port. In California, they're definitely restricting what kind of trucks can run at the ports. In other words, reducing diesel emissions. And there tends to be neighborhoods around ports because that's where the land's cheap and the low-cost housing and low-income families and so forth live there. But rather than just stick to along interstates, to think about ports all around the coasts of the country.
So that's kind of where uniquely Trillium can kind of separate from Loves, right? Loves is only at interstate locations, but Trillium, we do actually hunt those customers for any other types of refueling, non-interstates, a lot of fixed routes. Can't talk about them, but I will say we are talking about them. Yeah.
Mechanical people talking about hydrogen. You and him, he's a mechanical engineer also.
Oh, gotcha.
So my question was, well, no, I forgot. Oh, whose chargers are you using on the EVs chargers?
We haven't committed to anybody yet. I think our first ones are rolling out with ChargePoint. But I think we like all the options right now so far. So.
And you mentioned NACS as well as the CCS and Chatamo. Okay. And just a comment that occurred to me as you were talking earlier about dwell time and so forth. It just reminds me of the old saw people say that, gas stations don't make their money on selling gas. They make it on what they sell in the shop.
That's very true. Yeah, I think as soon as the NACS conversation came out, I think it was a GM and Ford that started adapting them, that the charger manufacturers started adapting them too. And so we asked them the question, like, hey, are you guys going to do this? More so to say, if you're not going to do this, I don't think we'll go with you. I think they're all the charger manufacturers are coming out with the NACS port of some sort. So.
So a lot to think about. And as we said, Chris and Jacky, you two need to talk to each other some about your companies and so forth. And it's good, as been brought up about PlugShare and these other apps that, we as a group, we, maybe have been using certain apps that you would like to learn from us, because of course we like this to be a back and forth, not just having you two guys here to present to us, but rather that we can give you some feedback of, what things we as citizens, as drivers and so forth find useful. I hadn't thought about the canopy aspect of things, but that's very true. Yeah. And of course, I'm always talking to people when they're asking, about advantages of EVs. I say that you're typically not stopping at stations. 50 weeks out of the year, you're charging at home, but you do need to separate your long distance driving. And that's when a canopy would be useful and when a love station would be useful, because the great American vacation, you put the kids in the car and you go for 2 weeks somewhere. And because I've had friends, they've rented on Turo an EV, and then they drove to Utah to Arches National Park. And of course they needed, yeah.
One of our Ohio remote members that brought it up, and was like, hey, it's snowing. When it's snowing, you can't really charge under heavy snow. Should we consider putting canopies on there? And like, oh yeah, you have a good point. So
right. And I think this last winter, a lot of folks on both the industry side and on the consumer side learned about cold weather charging. I guess it was like up in Chicago that they had several days of really cold weather. You know, things are getting frozen, whether it be door locks or charger ports or whatever. And you know, some folks would say like living in an apartment or something, so they're having to go to commercial charging providers, and that was a learning experience on a lot of people's side, and hopefully, of course, it'll improve things so everybody has a better experience. So other questions either online or in the room? Because this is fascinating what Loves is doing. So yeah, as we were preparing for this, I kept thinking of the name Trillium, but of course Loves is a name I recognize a lot more just from living and seeing it out along the great American highways and everything. So that's great to see that Loves is looking at the future and wanting to help consumers and make them their customers. Yeah, that's a really good thing. So I'm really glad that Collin and you ran into each other, Jacky. Yeah, that's really, yeah. So, okay, thanks so much. Okay, so people can continue to think of questions, but I'd just like to ask whether it be the Sweet Brothers or John Atwood online or anybody, what all have you got going on that you'd like to tell us about? So one brother's going to hand the other the microphone. Of course, I do want to hear from Eric. So we all know that your PV, half of your PV got destroyed during those tornadoes some months back. How was your recovery?
So it's going slow, but do have some progress. We
Okay.
Identified so the roof and the patio were damaged. The patio's gone. The roof was mostly destroyed. The solar.
Mhm.
And then I had a shed that came down, so
Mhm.
rebuilt bigger, better, and through the process of going through, found that I could get as much solar on the patio and the shed as I had on the roof.
Ah,
And those would be easier projects. So we worked on those, and just in the last month got the second one, got them both finished.
good.
So I'm back as far as solar goes to where we were before, but now I've
Mhm.
got a clear roof, which is south facing and perfect.
Mhm.
And I think I can get another 7 kilowatts on that. So
Ah.
that's the next phase. I'm going to wait till it gets cooler.
All right.
I'm hoping to make that a battery backup hub for the whole thing.
Okay. So besides being able to charge your i3, that you'll be able to get more of the house powered by solar.
Right. And if the vehicle to grid inverters become available,
Mhm.
it's really going to tie everything together.
Yeah.
So I need to go slow.
So yeah, if you want to hand over the microphone, we're talking about Bill Swan's battery.
Yeah, I may have mentioned this in an earlier meeting, two meetings ago. I purchased a wrecked Nissan Leaf
Mhm.
and dropped the battery out. It sold the Leaf, ended up paying $275 for a 48 module Leaf battery. I've got it's out in the back by my container. It's really interesting. It's very clean inside. If anybody would like to look at it,
Mhm.
I may not have time tonight, but next meeting.
Okay.
And I'm encouraged to do this by Kevin. We batteries are everything, as everybody knows. We've identified a BMS from Ant BMS that will service up to 32 cells. Well, I need to put 64 in my E10 S10 electric pickup. So I most likely will buy two BMS that'll service 32 cells each. And there'll be more to come on this as we go forward. And thanks to Kevin for encouraging me to do this.
Yeah, Kevin's always a good instigator. Kevin, our past president here at the club. Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, this is great. And I didn't notice, is Emma online too? I just wanted to say thanks to her for bringing out her trailer because of course, one thing that we talk about is towing with EVs. So it was already mentioned about pull-through sites. And of course, immediately we all think of towing when we think of the advantage of having some charging sites that are pull-throughs. Because I've been out at charging along the interstates and seen people that have had to disconnect their trailers to be able to charge their vehicles. Yes. Yeah, yeah, call up the Electrify Expo. Yeah, no, pull that up. That would be perfect. Kevin. Yeah.
I got to, my daughter and son-in-law bought a Kia EV9.
Ah, the big EV.
So it's very nice.
Ah,
We were up there visiting them and they had us babysitting the kids while they went out to do weekend activity, but they bought the car also.
Mhm.
And it's really nice. It's 3 rows. It's very spacious and
Makes child seats well.
fits the child seats well. They were
Mhm.
still figuring that out. They have two little ones. Very comfortable, very nice fit and finish, excellent fit and finish.
Okay.
300 miles.
Good displays.
They had yes, both a front and a big screen
Okay.
display. They were offering, I don't know if they're doing it down here, but up there they were offering something like $15,000 off MSRP.
Whoa.
Plus your tax credits.
Federal tax credit. Yeah.
So
Very
it was a very good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kia
Yeah.
EV9, it's the first
Mhm.
3-row. Well, no, I guess the Model X was
Rivian's also has the
and the
3-row, yeah.
Rivian has 3, but this one's priced a lot less than that.
Okay.
It's
There
it's
might
priced
also be
in-
some like a Volvo or Polestar that has a 3-row. I'm not sure offhand, but yeah, it's good to see more vehicle makers addressing that market. Okay. Yeah, and right, and we'll see, and the whole pricing thing, you're talking about the discount of like that. That's something in a future meeting we really ought to talk about. So you want to come up here?
No, I'll do it
Collin,
from
or-
right here. So I'm going to show you some slides from Electrify Expo last year in September in Austin. So Electrify Expo, it happens in 7 cities across the US. And I've been to it 2 years, and this year they have come a long ways. I think that I want to show you a few of the slides that this is. They have
that looks like
all
fun.
kinds of vehicles. And so it's not just cars. It's there's me driving BMW. So that one of the big deals is that you can test drive so many different vehicles. So I had to punch it. 60, 70 right there.
All right.
That's pretty fun. That put me back in.
Yeah, that's always the thing you have to explain to folks that are just used to gasoline vehicles is that before you know it, you're doing 70 miles an hour.
So this is where they are lining people up to get in the cars. You'll notice there was a Porsche there. There's there's all different kinds of cars, and you can on some of the cars you can drive it on Circuit of America track, which I got to do.
You did. All right.
So this is a little bit of that.
Yeah, like this turned
In
to
a- in a-
watch them,
in a
like in real life,
Model
they'll leave
3,
them up to going like
I believe it
120,
was.
brake, take it wide, and just floor it flat.
Now this year I didn't notice that, but there was 10 times as many cars, so I could have easily missed it.
Okay.
But it's if you go over 60, they ding you, so they're not going to let you go terribly fast, but it was still seeing some of the hairpin turns on that track. Oh my God. It's
But
incredible.
you're here now. You're not in jail, so I guess they didn't ding you too hard for going over 60.
Ford had a scratch pad, which they would put you in a car and do some scratching. Yes. Yeah. So they didn't even do waivers. I was kind of surprised. And then this is their 1,400 horsepower Mustang Mach-E.
I see a smoke. You sure there's a car there?
Yeah, there was. Yes, that's who it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and these are some of the exhibitors that were there. Yeah. Volvo. Ford had this weird electric van I had never seen before. And this is VinFast. Their cars were, I mean, the ones they had out there were nice.
Okay. The manufacturer from Vietnam, VinFast. All right. Quite a few different manufacturers. Good.
Yeah, Toyota didn't have a lot to show, but they were there.
Uh-huh.
And Tesla, that's the first year Tesla has been there.
Very good.
And then there's all kinds of, just to give you an idea of how many bikes and scooters, and I mean, and you can ride them. Nice.
Yeah, I think I took it up to about 28 miles an hour.
Right over here. Wait. That's where you can go.
All right, you see something you want to try? I actually think this is the most interesting part, at least to me. So that they have this thing called show off, and these people that they buy a car and then they immediately have to change it, right? These are mostly young people, mostly young men, and so they old men like me say, "Why did you just buy a car and then you screwed it up?" Then so they label their cars Ruined. That's the name of their group, Ruined. But I thought this is a sign that the EV world is maturing. I mean,
So-
when you have people that are willing to put thousands of dollars more into the cars.
So was that a rudder on the back and keep you steering straight?
I mean, look at this. This is some of the crazy stuff that you see, and a nice little Panasonic battery in there.
Yeah, it's great to see what the battery looks like.
My understanding is that these are mostly for suspension. They made them look like a battery, but it has to do with suspension. But look at how beautiful they are. I mean, they're spending some money on them. It's a sign of that I think this is maturing.
Those were probably the air tanks for the air suspension modification.
Yeah, there's the Ruined. And then the other part was the aftermarket. I couldn't believe how many aftermarket and conversions were there. And this VW, I love this thing. They chopped it. It's a shortened minivan.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just gorgeous.
Mhm.
Who was that, Colin?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I can tell you who won the show though.
Electrify the past.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, this is a really good sign that you've got suppliers, aftermarket showing up.
Mhm.
I have no idea what this car is. No. This guy is he is selling you a box to put in your front. And what does that box do? It makes noise. Yeah. This is more suppliers.
Get any contacts so we could have possible speakers?
Yeah, I got one, and we've had them. We've had them.
Okay, well, if the Electrify site actually has a list of exhibitors, maybe we could find some of those conversion offerers.
Yeah, they're coming in September again.
Yeah,
So
because
this is the best to show. I
to
have
get
to
one
say,
of them
it's
as a,
incredible.
even by Zoom as a speaker would be great. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. So here's the Electrify options in 2024 or locations and the dates. Yeah, oh yeah, it's not terribly expensive unless you're as an exhibitor. Then they'll get you. Yeah. There's on Friday, there's an exhibitors day, and they have speakers and special panels but if you on Saturday and Sunday is the open to the public.
Yeah, but for getting companies' names out there, even though it costs some money, I can't think of a better way to do it. Yeah.
I think they've added another city and they've added another vendor. But yeah, it's I highly recommend it. It's grown a lot, and I think it's going to continue. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Colin. That's fantastic to get everybody to know what's out there. Yeah, starting with the word electrify, but then expo. So yeah, thanks a lot, Colin.
They have good podcasts. They have good information. They got I like to listen to the guy who's doing their podcast because it's often about these guys that are doing racing. And he's talking about, I can buy $100,000 Tesla and go straight to the track and race. Says I can buy $100,000 Porsche and then I got to put another 200,000 in it. And then I can't drive it to the track. I got to put it on a trailer. Now it's a bit of an exaggeration because we all know that, EVs are great going in a straight line for a quarter of a mile. But you're not going to put them on NASCAR, right? Yet.
Yeah. Well, we've got some members like Keith Howard and so forth that are looking at racing and what's coming up and so forth. So
the racing part of it, I think, is also critical to the adoption of EVs.
Yeah.
They're until people get it out of their heads that loud is fast. We're going to hear them racing around our 610, for the rest of our lives, I think.
Yeah. You got a microphone there? You got the microphone there? It's back up here again. Go ahead, here.
Anyway, I saw it online that they had somebody built a race car that could go 0 to 60 in less than a second. It's like the video is over before you realize what's happening. Like 1/1000. 0 to 60 is done.
Yeah, that's all.
So all these little minute things that they're doing with the batteries and the engines and everything are going to go further By the way, if you do buy a bike, electric bike, to be legal on the streets in Houston, 750 watts or less, 30 miles an hour and less. And there's
Ah.
like 6 different things that's listed on their website that you can and can't do with them. So look it up before you buy them.
To be considered a bicycle, electrified bicycle
without
rather than a
registering it.
motorcycle.
Yeah, without registering it as a, I don't know if it's supposed to be a motorcycle or not, but
Okay.
there's rules.
Okay, that's really good to
That
know.
sounds like a presentation in there somewhere.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay. Any other questions from folks online or anybody in the room? So Chris, Jackie, we really appreciate you coming out here in person and talking to everybody. So. All right. So month from now, second Thursday in June, we'll see y'all again. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.